Hello, ladies, gentlemen. Thank you very much for joining in this live webinar on how to do a spring detox at home. Yeah, my name's Khabir Southwick, Ayurvedic doctor and herbalist in practice over 27 years, and the founder of Herb Man Teas, doing appointments worldwide on Zoom and mailing my hundreds of products worldwide as well. Today, our subject is very important about doing a spring detox. Now, today we're going to talk about how to do the spring detox, but I want to cover quickly, even though I've covered it in other webinars, on why to do a spring detox. And that's because that is the natural cycle of the human body, because we are eating and living outside of the natural seasons. We can buy food outside of the seasons, and we can change the temperature of our house, and so we're really not living in harmony with the seasons. And if we were, we wouldn't have to be thinking about this subject, because we would naturally be doing a spring detox right now. We would have been much colder in the winter than we were with our heaters, and it would be much warmer for us right now. And this would be start breaking down the mucus and the phlegm that accumulated during the winter. And of course, we would have if we were squirrels, we'd have no more nuts, and we would be a little bit running out of food. We'd be on the light side for food. We'd be eating a lot of roots, even dandelion roots. We'd be eating a lot of sprouts if we were deer or chipmunk, and we would be cleansing out and losing weight right now if we lived in the wild. Well, just think of the polar bear. I mean, he eats and fattens up. He goes into hibernation for 3 months, and then he comes out and starts, looking for some vegetation. And that's when he starts, kind of detoxing and cleansing. So it's natural to cleanse in the spring, to eat less. And we're going to talk about your diet in a minute, and to, kind of cleanse the liver. We're going to talk about home remedies you could do. We're going to talk about herbs that you could use. We're going to talk about products you could get from Herb Man Teas, our sponsor, that can help you do a spring cleanse. Now, the benefits of this spring cleanse is that you're going to feel lighter, have more energy, and you're going to avoid many conditions, particularly respiratory congestion. All the people getting allergies and asthma and breathing problems and all these are all coming from not doing the spring cleanse at this time of year. So those people with congestion, whether it's lymphatic congestion, you just feel congested, heavy, slow, sluggish, you ate too many cheesecake and heavy food and meat, and, during the winter time to keep the body nice and warm. And now is the time you want to shed this extra weight, shed this, congestion, and to clear the respiratory system so you don't have respiratory problems in the spring allergies. Now, of course, I do a spring detox every year, like a package on Khabir'sClinic.com, and I sell herbs, on Herb Man Teas for detox. But most people don't do these spring cleanse. And then in the spring, though, I'll do hundreds and hundreds of cases of allergies, respiratory allergies, mucus, congestion. And of course, if you get mucus and congestion, you can get infection easy. So more people will just wait around for the respiratory problem and then contact me, then do this spring cleanse in advance. And of course, every season we should be changing our diet. That's why in the fall, I do a fall rejuvenation package as well, to prepare for the colder months of winter. So how to do this cleanse at home, and you can do it to varying degrees. And of course, this is the nice time to lose weight in the spring, not in the winter. A lot of people complain they didn't lose weight in the winter. And I said, well, it's not the time to lose weight. The body doesn't want to shed these pounds when it's freezing outside. It wants to hold on to the fat and, keep the body warm and protected during the winter months. But now, as the sun comes out and the days become longer and we pass the spring equinox, and then our body's going to want to get rid of this extra weight. And all during the summer, we've got to stay cool, and we got to be sweating and drinking more water and eating more light. And so we need to help the body make this transition. And when the respiratory system doesn't go through this transition, particularly the respiratory system, then we're going to have mucus, phlegm, and we're going to respond to pathogens and allergens, and we're going to have allergies and respiratory problems and breathing problems. Even if you're just like having snoring or you're on a CPAP machine, it's all going to get worse without this spring detox. And if you already have respiratory issues, congestion, mucus, and sluggishness, well, this is even more important that you do this spring detox. Okay, so get your paper and pen out, folks. Here's your first lesson on doing a home spring detox. And now's the time to do it. I've already started mine. And the first lesson is eat lighter, like in not heavy food. What is heavy food? A pasta, cheese, animal protein, particularly meat, is heavy. So first thing I usually do is just stop eating so much turkey sandwiches. Start to have more vegetable sandwiches, veggie burgers instead of turkey sandwiches, less fish, and start to have more beans and bean burritos instead of fish. Now, I know, of course, other people are having hamburgers and steaks and a lot heavier food than that. And this is the time that you want to not be having this heavy building food, whether we call it animal protein. It's heavy. That's the key word, heavy and congestive. So that means less cheese, less mucus, less meat. I know we don't eat mucus, but when I think of cheese and dairy and, it's a time and place for it. It's not that these things are bad or good. That's always a simplistic amateur way of looking at things. That's a little more sophisticated. Something can be very good and healthy for you in the winter and not in the summer. I mean, even nightshades. We know nightshades are tomatoes, eggplant, bell pepper, paprika, white pepper, white potato. They're all the nightshades. We know they're inflammatory because of the skin and the seeds. The lectins apparently are make our joint pain worse. Make our skin inflammation, uterine inflammation. All inflammation will get worse with these, but they're not as bad for you in the summertime as they are in the winter. So because I'm growing tomatoes, for example, in the spring, and in a month or two, we're going to have tomatoes. So they're in season. When things are in season, they're going to give you less health problems because they're meant to be there. And that's the truth for nightshades. Many Ayurvedic practitioners know that they're inflammatory, but they sometimes forget that in the summertime, they're not going to be as inflammatory as they're going to be in the wintertime when they're out of season. So many foods are like that. And but we want lighter foods. Instead of meat, we do more beans. Okay. Instead of pasta, maybe you just do a rice or quinoa or something lighter. Instead of sweet potato, you could do white potato is even lighter, and that is a nightshade. And instead of, cheese and yogurt, we just have some fruit. And of course, the springtime, there's a lot of more fruit. There's 3 seasons for if you're a farmer: spring and fall and winter harvest, and not much in the winter, depending on where you are. But the spring harvest, the little sprouts that start coming out in the spring, these are in the vegetables that are coming out in the spring, things that I've planted, corn and okra. These are all, and the nightshades, the tomatoes, the eggplant, the bell pepper. These are all a lot of beans. I'm planting a lot of beans. They are all going to come out during the summer months, and these are the foods we should be eating. So lighter, and of course, nobody should be snacking on nuts at all. But in the spring, you shouldn't have any nuts at all, none. And actually, according to Ayurveda, if you look at it, this nut should only be in the fall, and that's of course when they show up. If you have a nut tree, like I had a big almond tree one time, and just dumped nuts all over the place, and there were just squirrels everywhere climbing all over this tree, and they all dumped in the fall, and the tree was barren in the winter. and then it had the little leaves come in the spring, but there were no nuts again into the fall. So don't have nuts now. Nuts are heavy, heavy foods. And don't have cheese and yogurt. These are heavy, congestive foods. Start to have lighter foods. Okay. First thing. And two, don't have a cold foods, cold drinks, cold water, ice lemon tea. All cold things create more congestion. Doesn't have to be hot and spicy, but it should not be cold. It can be room temperature. And this would be, so this will all help with your um, circulation and getting out, not creating more mucus and keeping, your blood flowing and not creating more mucus and congestion. I have so many patients with breathing problems and mucus and congestion and on CPAP machines. And I had a client just the other day and had a whole bunch of health problems. But when it came to the respiratory, I said, well, stop the yogurt, stop the ice cream, stop the cold foods, stop the ice lemon tea or the ice tea that they were drinking. Let's see how the respiratory system is and if it's still giving you more mucus and congestion. In the next appointment, I'll give you something for it. But since the person was having yogurt, ice cream at night, cold drinks, I wanted to see what happens without it. 3 days later, they text me and said, all my respiratory congestion was gone. No need to send another product. And I was thinking of giving them a product, but because they were doing all the things that creates mucus and congestion, I figured, well, let's see what happens when they stop these things. And sure enough, they text back and said it got much better really fast. So that's the importance of not having congestive things during the spring where you're trying to fight congestion and get your breathing good and avoid respiratory problems and congestion. So again, eating light, more beans, less meat, no snacking on nuts, crackers, cookies, more fruit, eat 2-3 apples a day. More salads. As the spring comes, you can start having more salads instead of cooked heavy things like sweet potatoes. Those are heavy vegetables, and have more, salads and leafy greens and sprouts. And these are all cleansing. Sprouts cleansing. And of course, during the winter, we did have some family cabbage, broccoli, cauliflower, kale, and I had mustard greens growing in the garden, but these are almost all gone now. So that's kind of their time is kind of past, unless it's still cold where you are. Maybe you're still able to grow them. But now we need to move on to the other food categories. So salads, beans, less dairy, lighter oils like sunflower oil, olive oil, no heavy oils, thick oils, no, lard, cut back on anything heavy and congestive is what you want to remove, and less snacking. Many people can just go right down to 2 meals a day during the whole summer. Once the summer months come and it's hot, you may even be able to reduce to 2 meals a day. So then next thing you want to, so change the diet. Just start changing now. Like I said, for me, I just stopped buying fish. I start doing more bean dishes. I stopped doing turkey sandwiches. I start doing vegetable and veggie burger sandwiches, and just change it up a little bit. I just do a little less eggs and more of my superfood for breakfast, just a little lighter, and just start to naturally feel a little lighter and start to lose the weight without a big effort. Because in fact, our weight should always be coming up a little bit in the winter, down a little bit in the spring, and summer becomes the nice time to lose weight, and the fall is the time that the body will naturally put on some weight again. So if you're not losing those 5 or 10 pounds you gained during the winter, now it's just every year you're going to have another 5 or 10 pounds, and then you're going to have 50 pounds over. So if you gain 5 or 10 pounds during the winter, now's the time to get rid of it. Start eating lighter, skip, having 2 meals, eating all the beans instead of all the meat. And then all summer long, you can just continue with this light diet and lose those 5 or 10 pounds. And then you can relax in the fall and the winter and have your nuts and start having more animal protein and start building up a little bit for the winter. Of course, the colder your winter, the more you have to build up. And the hotter your summer, the more you want to, eat lighter and more liquids and even keep the body cool. So it does depend on where you live. So then change the diet. On my website, kabirsclinic.com, I do have an article about diet for Vata, Pitta, and Kapha in the springtime. And since this is ancient knowledge, thousands of years old, you can find it by searching for it as well. Now, next, we want to look at some organs that we want to get cleansed out. Number one, the colon. I mean, sometimes people, and then number two, the liver, and number three, the kidneys, and even the skin, and the lymph could need to be cleansed. But the most important one is the colon. And many people, they just don't even know what healthy bowel movements are. This is, of course, a big subject, but generally, there should be equaling your meals. If you're eating 3 meals a day, you should be going 3 times a day. And like I get many cancer cases, colon cancer cases, and they're all just going once a day, sometimes skipping a day for 30, 40, 50 years, and then they get the colon cancer. So just 1 time a day. If you're eating a few times a day, that is constipation. I even get people with a diverticulitis, and they're so surprised because they were normal in their minds going 1 time a day. Well, that's how they got the diverticuli and the diverticulitis, because they were basically constipated and didn't know it. So you want to clean this colon out and get it moving 3, 4 times a day. And I took my colon herbs last night, and this morning I came out to work, sat down, and I had to run back to the bathroom. And that's when I remembered, man, I took my herbs last night. It's not like I went in my pants, but usually I have to have some water and, drink a little tea, and then I go to the toilet. Then I go have my breakfast. But this time I didn't even have to have the water, and it felt good. I think I did already 3 today, and wow, it does feel good. And I don't really have a constipation problem, but definitely helped me feel better and lighter just getting those bowels moving. And of course, we need to be looking at our bowels. We need to analyze them. And I've done webinars on that, on how to understand your bowel movements better. But the main thing need to know is don't be constipated. If you're skipping days, oh, that's really serious. As they say, diarrhea is the fast killer. Constipation is the slow killer. That's you later in life. You just get the colon cancer. So if you're skipping a day or a couple days, it's really urgent. And even if you're just going once a day, you better do the colon cleanse. Even if you're going like me twice a day, still you'll benefit by doing this cleanse in your colon. So we can talk about some products here that we can look at, but I do want to tell you there's many things you can do. Oh, the whole diet I just gave you should get your bowels moving. Meat, animal protein, fish has zero fiber, so you're gonna get more constipated even with fish and chicken. I mean, it looks fibrous, but there's none. And beans, of course, are high in fiber, so you're having more beans and brown rice, and grains actually are quite good in the spring and the summer. They're really sweet. Grains are considered sweet. Don't do radical diets like the vegan on one side, one radical extreme, or the keto diet, the other radical extreme. The both types of diets send me steady stream of patients with health problems and nutritional deficiencies from these extremes. I've spoke on that many times. So there's, different grains for different types of people, and we should do things in moderation and based on our own and the seasons and our own individual health needs. But don't be radical and follow other people's diets, because we're all very quite unique. You should know your own, body type. Vata, Pitta are Kapha dominant, and that diet should be a factor. And then the season should be a factor. But of course, the Kapha, the spring is the Kapha season, where there's going to be more congestion and allergies if you don't do this cleanse, and you could have more. But this winter is the Vata season, cold and dry, and this is when people have dry stools and get most constipated in the winter time, because they're having more animal protein. Sometimes they're not getting out as much, and it's dry outside and cold. Both factors can ruin your digestion and give you constipation. So you definitely want to cleanse out the colon, and just by having the more beans and more fruit, You could even do a little. This is a time to cleanse. I mean, do a fast too. I mean, people are like doing things at the wrong time sometimes. You don't do a fast in the middle of the winter when it's cold outside. No, you do it in the summer when it's hot. You just drink a lot of water and sweat and get some sunlight. And so summer is the best time for fasting when it's warm outside, because you got to keep the body temperature warm in the winter time. So fasting is not conducive with the winter unless you're in the southern hemisphere and it's warm where you are. But then everything is, of course, the opposite than what I'm telling you now. So summer, you can start to fast, but you can start to cut down on the meals, and you can start to do more fruits that come out, and more leafy greens and sprouts. And these all should get your bowels moving to some degree. You can do prune juice at night. You can do other things. Now, when it comes to taking herbs, there's a big variation. You can see here on colon, we have many different colon products, but and there should be different for every person. Nobody's the same. I wouldn't just buy some tea online with a bunch of senna, rhubarb. A lot of these products are just way too strong. They're putting in strong laxatives and even chili pepper in them. And jalapenos. I've seen jalapenos in colon formulas. 2 or 3 strong laxatives in one formula. No, not good. Um, so you have to be careful because not everybody needs a strong colon formula. I don't. Here's a nice tea that's nice. It's a colon cleanse tea. Now, I do use 2 laxatives here, which I spoke negatively against, but I'm using them in small doses, like, 15% senna, 20% carsata sagrada. This is about 30-40% peppermint, which helps with avoid the discomfort and cramping you would get from just taking senna by itself. For God's sakes, don't just take senna all by itself. You can get cramps. And never take in capsule. It's just too strong. You make a little tea with senna with some peppermint, maybe, and then I put licorice, fennel, cumin, and ginger in it. That helps the digestion. And you get almost no cramps from this tea at all. And that's why it's very famous. You can give it to children. You can give it to elderly people. It's not that strong. It's easy to make some strong killer substances where you just take 1 pill and you get 3 bowel movements, but that tends to be too strong. This tea is just right. And many people do comment that they don't get cramps and discomfort, but it'll get your bowels moving. You can make, and the more tea you use, like if you use 2-3 teaspoons, then of course it's going to be stronger than if you use 1 teaspoon and it tastes good. That's a good start. Good start. I would recommend the Ayurvedic formulas. They have more cleansing potential. Senna and Carsata Sagrada, both are kind of laxatives. This is kind of like a backup I see for stubborn constipation. It says very effective without cramping. But I would prefer the Ayurvedic herbs because they're more individualized, like this one here. And they're going to do more cleaning. They're going to clean out the diverticuli, the little pockets that give you diverticulitis. And they're just going to have more benefit for the colon than this, senna and carsata sagrada, even though I kept them kind of mild. But this is for dry, hard stools. This is the vata version. So if you're having dry, hard stools, sometimes I'll give people this formula to take at night. And then I say, hey, if you still didn't go, then drink the tea in the day. That's why I call it. I give it as a backup, as a secondary, or somebody who's really not that constipated. Sometimes, I just take it once in a while in the middle of the day just because for some reason I feel a little blocked up. But mostly I use it as a backup. So that particularly people have stubborn case. But if you have dry, hard stools, then this is a much more effective formula than that tea. And then if you are overweight and heavy person with sticky stools, not so much dry, then this is the best formula for sluggish bowels and belly fat. See, it's got the triphala, which triphala by itself doesn't really make a good laxative. But it does clean the colon well. This one's got the gugulu and the vidanga, which is for parasites, and trikatu. Little extra senna to give it some kick. So this is for a big, heavy, overweight person. If we look at this formula, we're going to also see this has got the dried haritaki, dried castor oil. with triphala, little carsata sagrada, and some licorice ginger to make it soothing and help the digestion. And Vidanga, again, Vidanga is for worms and parasites in all these formulas. So you can pick one of these three based on who you are. And now, if you're like me, and you don't, there's a pitta version too. If you have loose stools, um, there's many versions, many formulas. So you should always pick your colon formula based on your own needs by reading about it here. Don't just buy something in the shelf and take some tablet. It may get the bowels moving. It may be a laxative, but not cleansing. But this one is very good long-term colon care. It's like, say your bowels are moving 2 times, sometimes 3 times a day, then you just want to pick one of these long-term products. There's two of them, long-term colon care kapha version, and there's the long-term colon care pitta version, which is what I'm taking now. I take a couple teaspoons at night, and it definitely kind of gets you going, but it's not strong at all. So you want to pick one of these off the site. Now, when we come to the liver, it's also very important to treat the liver. And if you're treating the liver, you should always treat the colon as well at the same time, because the liver, of course, doesn't have its own external channel to get the toxins out of the body. It just puts them in the bile, and the bile goes into upper small intestines, and then it comes out with the fecal matter. So you want to be taking the colon herbs as well to keep the bile moving out of the body quickly, or you get autotoxicity. And the easiest is the tea, of course. People like teas, but they're not as strong as the powders. But this tea, it helps, it cleanses the blood, supports the liver function. And, I use this tea also for gallbladder cleanse. I have special herbs for gallbladder, but this herb's working very well. And it's working very good for skin conditions too, with yellow dock, which is a blood purifier. It's more than just a dandelion, burdock root, milk thistle, which is a textbook liver formula. I put the yellow dock in it, which is very helpful. And then there's some herbs like licorice, which is just a wonderful herb. Many people, of course, are scared of it because they think it increases their blood pressure, but that's false information. You'd have to take tons of tons of licorice to increase your blood pressure. And, Chinese and Indian herbalists, Western herbalists, you just put in a few 5% of it, and just helps all the herbs work better. And then coriander, because the liver doesn't like heat and hot spices. So coriander is a soothing spice. Cardamom, also very nice taste. A little turmeric there. And the benefits are all outlined on the website. So this is a nice product, but again, I prefer an Ayurvedic product where you can specialize. Now, this one is called Liver and Digest. This is if you don't have any appetite, you're not much hungry, so you take this before meals. Most of these liver herbs are bitter, and this one is bitter and stimulating your appetite. But we use it mostly for fatty liver, and improves metabolism. It's good for weight loss. This is good for a heavy person with no appetite. I'm not hungry till 3 o'clock type of person. This will clean out your liver and get the bile going, and get some of those hamburgers out of your system that the bad fat. Now, if you've had history of drinking, you could do the drinker's detox tea. It's very similar to the liver tea, but it does have the reishi mushrooms, which is help the liver to detoxify and rejuvenate its cells. Reishi is rejuvenative. You can see the big chunks of reishi right there. We never buy reishi powder. I wouldn't. You can't be sure about its quality. We buy the pieces and chop them up ourselves. So at least we can see that it was a mushroom. But the famous herb in here is kutsu herb, which is a Chinese herb, even though I'm an Indian and Western herbalist. But this has a long history of reducing alcohol cravings and reversing the harmful effects of alcohol on the liver. So if you've been a drinker and you've quit, or you're just still drinking, then this would be a better choice for you than otherwise. You can pick one of these specialized liver formulas. This one is for fatty liver, again, for a heavy person. But if you get on here, you can see we got a lot of liver products. I'm not going to cover them all. See, there's all these. We got liver for vata, for the weak, thin person. We have liver formula for somebody who's like hot and red and burning and rashes. And then we have some liver formula for fatty liver, then the drinking one. And then we have one for gout too, which is called blood, liver, kidney detox. It's for gouty arthritis. And then there's this nice general one I showed you here for liver and digest. So you want to pick the right um, liver formula for yourself, and you want to pick the right colon formula for yourself. So that basically sums it up. Now, if you're having urination problems and water retention, then you can get a kidney product to flush the water out of you. If you have swelling or water retention in the body, this could be kidney problem. Of course, there's other causes, but we have a kidney detox tea, which is like a diuretic, flushing the water out of you and getting the urine flow. If you're peeing at night a lot and you're also having swelling, of course, this could be kidney problems, kidney failure, but it can also just be congestion and just need to get this water out of his system. You just need a diuretic. Celery juice also is a good diuretic. And if you're going to do any other home remedies, that would be juicing. Now would be the time to juice. I mean, people, try to do these things at the wrong time and they think, oh, you don't like juicing? I didn't say that. It's the middle of winter. You don't do vegetable juicing in the middle of winter. But now you can do some juicing. I mean, I still got some carrots left over from the winter. So you could get those leftover carrots. I gave mine to the horse, but you could just juice them up, do a little carrot juice. You could do a little vegetable juicing every morning instead of eating. This is the time to do it, as long as your environment is starting to get warm. If you're still cold where you are, just wait until the weather starts to get warm and then start your cleanse. Okay. So you got to go by where you live. Once the days are getting warm here, we're only probably weeks away from using the AC all day long. But now we got all the windows open. The cold is way behind us, even though it seems like a few weeks ago it was freezing here. And the water pond and waterfall and the animal water was all freezing like a month ago. Now we got the windows open and fans on. So that's the time to start doing the cleanse before it gets really hot in the summer, because really we can adjust our diet even more in the summer. We can have cooling foods, coconut water, more salads, more leafy greens, and continue to go through, and more liquids. And we're going to be sweating more in the summertime. So we still, even summer, even though it's not a cleanse period, we still should take into account the heat and adjust our diet accordingly. And I will talk on that subject when it gets hotter. But for now, it's spring. So lighten your diet, cut the snacking, get rid of the nuts, get rid of the animal protein, do more beans, do lighter meals, start taking some colon herbs for your colon, get the bowels moving good. So you're going like two, three, even 4 times a day. Even slightly loose is okay. Take some liver herbs. You don't need to take much, just 2 bags of the liver tea or 1 bag of one of these powerful Ayurvedic formulas. They're much stronger. You only need to take a half a teaspoon before you eat. Most liver herbs should be taken right before you eat. Like in the old days, they said, take your bitters. Well, don't worry. When you take these liver formulas, you're going to know what they were talking about when they talked about bitter, because all these liver formulas are bitter, and you just take it and you get that bitter taste, and then you start eating your food. It helps you digest the fat, starts getting the bile going, starts emulsifying the fat better. It can help with weight loss, can help with clearing out the gallbladder, the digestion, absorption of fat, and you can feel a lot better by taking just 1 bag of the liver formula, 1 bag of a colon formula, and eating lighter. And you will have much more energy in the spring, low respiratory issues. You'll lose the weight you should be losing without much effort. Okay, so this is very important. And then once you get in the habit of doing this, you just do it every spring. Do your cleanse. And that's why I'm giving the talk, because I'm starting my cleanse now. So I hope this helps you to understand how to do a spring detox at home and clean out your colon, your liver, and eat lighter, lose weight, feel better, and prepare the body for spring and summer. Thank you very much. If you need assistance in doing your spring cleanse and like me to guide you through it, feel free to contact my office and schedule an appointment. We're always offering spring cleans packages, spring detox packages through the spring, probably right up till the end of April. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I wish you a healthy spring and summer as it's after your spring detox. Thank you once again.